70% of us spend much of our time stressed, with our nervous systems ready to fight, take flight, or freeze. I mean, it's a scary thought, isn't it? But the good news is there are techniques to help us calm down. In a book titled 7 Steps to Finding Flow, Nicky Rowbotham shares practical steps on how to move towards an easier and more resilient life. She joins me now. A very good morning to you, Nicky. Firstly, tell me about your story. Why did you get to this point?
Perfect. Good morning, Jane, and thanks so much for having me. It's really been my own personal stress journey that led me to write the book. Having been a high-functioning and high-performing corporate leader, I know living in stress all too well. And I think what I really came to realize after some health issues that really made me reconsider whether or not this was a way to really be living, really be showing up, and spending the rest of my life. It really caused me to take a good hard look at how I was sort of using stress as an excuse, almost my sidekick from that perspective. And I had a number of health issues, which, as I mentioned, caused me to seek some help. And after using some small, very easily accessible interventions to turn my health around, I started to realize how many other people were sitting in the same position as myself.
And Nicky, I mean, before we get to those interventions, I mean, stress, you talk about the straitjacket of stress, and you've got a quote here saying it's not stress that kills us, it's our reaction to it. I mean, very briefly, I mean, yesterday I got a ridiculous tax bill. I mean, it's just like, you know, it was beyond, totally unexpected. And I could feel myself going from zero to, you know, incandescent with rage. Tell us a little bit about how bad and dangerous stress is for you, because I think we don't often are cognizant of how it's hitting us.
Absolutely. And that was, I think, part of my key sort of awareness and intuition that eventually came through as to how stress was landing in my body. My back was permanently locked up. My digestion had shut down. I was permanently clenching my jaw. And really what happened was I was actually diagnosed with a nervous system in a state of freeze. And that basically meant that I'd made my home in a state of fight or flight, where your nervous system is so completely locked in that stressed out state, stress hormones pumping through my body constantly, and then kept there by being in a state of being always on. There were a few key moments that really made me kind of, you know, come to realize that this wasn't going to be a way to live. That old adage of health screams and health whispers until it screams. Let's not wait for the scream was so apparent, and I was starting to hear it scream. I'd had a partial dislocation in my shoulder after a meeting. Those sorts of things that really just said to me, I've done this to my body by allowing stress to almost be in the driving seat of my life. I was wearing it as a badge of honor.
Yeah, and it's actually not cool, is it? And I should imagine a lot of people listening to are nodding their heads and going, yep, I'm experiencing the same thing. So tell us, how do we find the flow? What are your 7 tips?
Perfect. So there's 7 steps to finding flow that I went through. The book takes you through a big journey around understanding, first of all, my story, which I've shared, because I think it's important for people to maybe see where it resonates with them. I think that's been a big piece, creating that awareness that maybe there is an issue and we need to do something about it. Understanding your nervous system, the first step is release, where you literally allow your nervous system to come back into flow and really unshackle that straitjacket of stress where you're kept in a state of freeze or fight or flight. The next one is really around tuning in, starting to listen to your body. My body had been sending me nudges for years, and I'd been ignoring them, you know, and justifying my stress for so long. Connecting back into your intuition. It's guiding us all the time and getting grounded, whether it be out in nature, getting your feet into the soil, not being insulated from life, which we do most days from that perspective. The next one is lightening the load on our bodies, and this can be both in terms of chemical and emotional stress, in terms of how we really allow our body to start processing our stress hormones and everything that works in our body more effectively. Rest and regeneration is the next one. Obviously, sleep is critical. and then a pause for potency, which is where you really are able to disconnect, do something different, and come back far more resilient in our lives. And obviously the seventh one is creating a plan, whether it be you're dipping your toe in the water or going all in. We've created some templates that you can download from the links in my book to really help you come up with a plan that works for you. The techniques that I've put into my book don't cost a lot of money. They're affordable, accessible to everyone. In fact, they saved me money when I started to lighten the load on my life.
Nicky, it's a great book. Sadly, we've run out of time. So very briefly, now that you've managed to find the flow, how do you feel?
So much better. I think my life feels easeful. I feel resilient, and I've got my energy back.
Well, thank you for your time, Nicky.